Okay, so we are here with another player comparison, and this time it is one that I actually wish I was not in this video because I don't think I like both players for any reason. I wish I was not in this video, but of course I have to be here and I have to discuss and share my opinion too. But regardless of my opinions, it is public opinion that these two players we're going to be discussing are legendary forwards in the Premier League, whether you like them or you don't. They did some pretty iconic stuff during their playing days, and they had a lot of influence with their teams and the Premier League at large for Manchester United and for Chelsea. And we're talking about no other two players than Wayne Rooney and Didier Drogba. The Englishman and the Ivorian, two top strikers in their time, Victor. Both were iconic, obviously, but I'm just going to ask you directly, like we always do. Who do you think was a better Premier League forward? And of course, the term better is open to your own interpretation. So,
Yeah, this is a very tough comparison, and I feel like if we're talking about finishing, I'd probably go with Drogba. However, Rooney had more appearances, more goals, more assists, more league titles, but Drogba had two golden boots, which Rooney didn't. In terms of contributions per game, there aren't huge differences, despite the difference in appearance numbers. Both they just have huge and lasting legacies in the Prem, and I think for the perspective of a forward, strictly, I'll just go with Drogba for this one.
yeah, fair enough. Drogba was you think Drogba was more iconic than Rooney? Yeah, was more better than Rooney.
Strictly better as a forward, not necessarily more iconic.
Iconic, okay, yeah. Yeah, if you ask me, to be fair, I think a lot of our answers are based on the fact that Rooney played across several positions for United. So we
Yeah,
never really saw him nail down the center forward spot. Sometimes we saw him play as a supporting striker. We saw him play even from the flanks, and we saw him play, as an AM and whatnot. So he never really nailed down one single spot. But I think the biggest anomaly for Rooney has to be the fact that he is the third Premier League scorer of all time, and he has no golden boot to his name. I think it's the most shocking thing I've ever seen, man. How do you have over 200 Premier League goals and no golden boot? I don't know how that happened, but yeah, I think I'm still going with Rooney regardless. I'm going with Rooney. But yeah, that's just my choice. Moving forward, Max, who do you think was more influential in games, Drogba or Rooney?
Mm, it's a hard question because they're pretty same at my end as a player. Because yes, you mentioned Rooney played on several roles in team in positions, so I can't compare really against Drogba because he was always just a striker. Uh, well, I'd say Rooney beat, but I'm not sure about it at all.
Mm. Victor, your choice.
simply because he tended to show up more often, so to speak, in bigger games. I'm going with Drogba. He was more of the man for the big occasion, seemingly. Don't get me wrong, Rooney had some incredible contributions as well, especially if we're talking about game-winning goals. But Drogba almost always showed up for the big occasion, played his part really, really well. If you look at the Champions League final in 2012, I genuinely don't think they would have won that trophy without him. And that was their first Champions League trophy. That was what they were after all this time.
Yeah.
So I kinda am going with Drogba for this.
Yeah, I think on one hand I can try to agree with you, but it's all about perspective. While Drogba had more goals in finals and than Rooney, Rooney had more match-winning goals overall than Drogba. So
Yeah,
if you're looking at it from big games, I mean, you easily give Drogba. But if you're looking at it at a stretch, continuously, who was scoring more match-winning goals, who was scoring more of the equalizers and stuff like that? Actually, the stats show that it was Rooney by far. So it's a bit of a difficult one to be fair, but yes, simply because in when we remember players, we remember them by their movement, and moments come in big games, moments come in finals, moments come on those clutch occasions where your club needed someone to stand out. Talking about Gerard, in Istanbul and stuff like that. So I think Drogba has more of those moments that we can remember. So I think, yeah, I can agree with you that he was more influential in games. And still with you, Victor, between both of them, now this is not about who was better, but who do you think was more complete than the other?
Hmm. Yeah, Rooney. Rooney had more to his skill set. Was more willing to sacrifice himself for the good of the team. He was willing to play out of position, as you mentioned. He was willing to do more of the dirty work, to put in the slide tackles, if you will. Both of them also physically gifted athletes, but I'm giving this one to Rooney as well because he always at least looked more energetic, more willing to put in the hard yards, and his work rate was good. Drogba was great too, but he couldn't really play behind the target man, for instance, right? So he couldn't play shadow striker or out on the wing, chalk on the boots and stuff like that.
Yeah, fair enough. Max, do you agree?
Yeah, definitely.
Fair enough. And this one is, of course, very, very perspective based once again. Victor, who would you rather have in your team as a manager, Wayne Rooney or Didier Drogba?
Oh man, probably Rooney for the fighting spirit that he always brought. When it came to winning, the man was like a dog with a bone, honestly. Of course, that also got him in trouble plenty of times, whether for United or for Everton or for England as well, as we remember the Cristiano Ronaldo episode.
Yeah,
But yeah, there's a parallel now to last week's episode where we spoke about Suarez and how he got in trouble because of his desire to win.
yeah,
But he seemed just more involved in the game than Drogba, and I think I can, if I put on my manager hat, I can resonate with that a bit better.
fair enough. Me too. For some reason, I feel I feel the reason I would pick Rooney is because when you're talking about goals, both of them easily give you goals. I mean, in fact, if you're going by numbers, Rooney had more goals than Drogba. Both of them can give you goals, but on the days where goals might not come, because the striker will obviously not score every time. On the days where goals might not come, who would still give you more in that game? I will go with Rooney. I think Rooney had better link up play. He was more involved, like you said. He was willing to do all
Created
the
more.
extra. Yeah, he was ready to do all the extra work and even track back when needed. So I think based on that, if I was a manager, and I could pick only one of both, I would sort of pick Rooney, because even if in cases where I needed to tweak my formation or something, Rooney can still play in other positions, and it would just be a joy to have. So yeah,
Yeah.
Max, who would you have in your team?
Yeah, I was also going to say that Rooney can play a couple of positions. He can play midfield. He can play winger and striker possibly, while Drogba is only playing as a striker. So yeah, if I'm manager, I'm 100% taking Rooney.
Fair enough. And which of these players will survive in current football, Victor, based on their skill sets and how they used to play in their days?
Yeah, see, I'm ping-ponging between questions. I'm picking Rooney for this, Drogba for that. For the previous one, I picked Rooney 100% as a manager. In terms of suiting current football, and if I'm a manager today, you have to kind of go with Drogba though. He was always more level-headed. He maybe knew where his limits were as a player. Uh, of course, much higher than 95% of Premier League footballers anyway. but he understood that it's best to play to your strengths. This is also why maybe he was never just put out of his position as a striker, because that's what he was good at. Play him where he belongs. Rooney would also be a fantastic addition to pretty much any team, but Drogba's role is a bit more timeless. He understood where he belongs. He did his job. He did it well, and there's the resurgence of the target man nowadays to a certain extent as well in today's football. So I think Drogba for this, yes.
Max, do you agree with that?
Uh, I'd say both will still be pretty good players at the moment, but as Victor said, yeah, we're still a bit lacking of straightforward like Drogba, so probably he'll fit better any team.
Yeah, fair enough. Because I think football these days is lacking those direct target men, that could just, they just have the eye for goal. They're just ready to shoot, take on players, and shoot as much as they can. I think football is lacking, strikers with that skill set these days. So I think Drogba will be something like a rare gem in this moment. If you ask me, a rare gem. So everyone wants forwards that can link up and stuff like that. So Drogba will still be a rare gem in this era, if you ask me. And
Yeah,
so
and
yeah, go
if
on.
you look at this from the target man perspective, this is perhaps why, and maybe I'm a little bit biased saying this, okay, as a Liverpool fan, but I feel
Hmm.
like Haaland is maybe a little bit overrated because he gets
No,
the
you're not being
numbers.
biased. I promise you.
He's getting the numbers, and he has a ton of goals and he has a ton of shots and everything. But at the same time, he stands out because there's not that much competition. There is at the moment. It seems like there are more teams adopting a target man system, at least part time. Maybe not as their main tactic, but it is coming back a little bit more. And this is why I think because there's just not enough of them, Haaland stands out even if he just ghosts City in big games anyway.
Yeah.
So he stands out because of that. Yeah. So with someone like Drogba in the picture, it would be a bit different, I think.
Yeah, fair enough. And so this is a very, very interesting video because we sort of shared all our answers between both players, and there's really no conclusive
Yeah.
verdict to say this one was better than this one based on our opinion. So on that note, we are going to have to leave our viewers to give us the answer. Actually, who do you think was a better player to our viewers out there, Wayne Rooney or Didier Drogba? Who was more iconic? Who was a better Premier League forward? And who is actually going to survive in today's football? We've given our opinions. We're actually quite objective, which I liked, and we gave our solid shouts. Both players, have their advantages, their pros and their cons, and our viewers have to bail us out on this one for us to pick a clear winner. But for now, it's looking like a tie. Two top strikers, and we just can't seem to separate them. But yeah, Victor, just for us to end this video, just separate both players now and just pick one as your clear choice. Just one.
Rooney.
Rooney. Yeah, Max, you.
Yeah, I'm going with Drogba.
Drogba. Well, me, I'm actually going with Rooney. So that means in our video here, we
Okay,
are sort of
that's
leaning
fun.
towards where
That the
we
only
are sort of
United fan
leaning
here
towards.
took Drogba, not Rooney.
Yeah, that's the big irony. Yeah, it shows you're actually objective. The
Mm.
United fan on this call actually went against his own team. That's pretty interesting. So, but yeah, myself and Victor were leaning towards Rooney, and it just seems like Rooney was just very, very complete. But yeah, both of them were iconic, no matter how you want to see it. And it would be nice to hear from our viewers and what they think about these two elite forwards during their days. Until we come your way next time for another beautiful edition of the Player Comparison, continue to enjoy your football.